Hello, this is Yvette of Honey Deep, Honey Wide with this week's episode of Minutes to Insight, where I pull one fortune from all the fortunes that I've written since the last winter solstice and reflect on the meaning that this fortune has for me right now. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, if you enjoy these offerings, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, here we go. It's a bit of a cloudy day right at the end of August. We are heading towards a new way of being. All right, today's fortune, what will you be? Somehow, whatever I pull always seems to work out. So, okay, March 24th. Care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. Listen until you're ready to tell your truth. Care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. Listen until you're ready to tell your truth. Care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. Listen until you're ready to tell your truth. It's always so mysterious because, I can remember writing this. I don't really remember the circumstances unless I look at my journal and then I'm like, oh, okay, yes. But I'm really trusting that what needs to come up in the moment does come up. Wow, and March was a whole nother world, wasn't it? Yeah. And I'm always very curious. Like, oh, what is this going to mean to me? And there's always like this kind of twinge of excitement when I pull a fortune because I have no idea what I'm going to pull. And even though all of these messages have come to me and they've come out of the universe talking to me, when I pull something, it's like, wow, like, what does it bring up for you now? Right off the cuff. I can't plan this, and I think that's what's so valuable about this is I can't plan it. But care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. I think when I hear that sentence, what I think about a lot is a lot of times, and I'll speak from my position, a lot of times in life, I realize that I've been waiting for somebody to see me, to hear me, to understand me, to know me, to like me, to praise me, to honor me, to support me, to believe in me. Like all of these wonderful things. And it's like I spent most of my young life longing for that person who was going to do that. And I feel a lot of emotion when I think about those decades of longing. Oh, God, to be a human being and to long for others or some special other to see you, to care about you. Like, yes, indeed, we do get blessed with people who do that, but it may not be in the way that we're desiring or hoping for or longing for. And so something that's become very powerful for me over the past how many decades is how to take that longing for that external someone and make myself the someone that sees me, who knows me, who cares about me. So here I am saying, care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. What do you really want right now? What do you really need right now? What's hurting you? Why do you lash out like this? What pain exists that you would act like that? Not what, don't ask yourself the things that you think you should desire, or you think you should want, or you think you should reach for. All of those things, it's like I spent much of my youth trying to be what others would desire. What a waste of time. What a terrific waste of time. And at the same time, most humans, I would venture to say, have to go through that process if they're ever going to reach the other side, which is where you surrender. Surrender being this pleasing person with the aim of getting others to care for you, to honor you, to know you, to see you. How can they see you if you're busy trying to be what you think they want to see? How can they know you if you're trying to be the pleasing version of what you think they want? Impossible. And you're cheating others and you're cheating yourself when you do that. It's living a lie. And that's often, and to really be kind about that, because often that's the process you have to go through till it gets to such a point where you're suffocating from the lies that you've been living. And your need and desire to breathe are so strong and so powerful that you bust out of that lie. And that's typically very painful. But if you survive that, you're going to find some fresh air. You will discover the capacity to breathe, to know your truth. But you've got to care. Care enough to ask yourself the questions that nobody else will. Difficult questions, because some of these questions, if you are truly honest, really honest, some of these answers that you will have to these questions, these very honest questions, they lead to the realization that you can't live the life you've been living any longer. You can't keep participating in the relationships that you've been participating in. You can no longer invest in the goals that you've based your whole life on. These are the kinds of questions that, if you're really honest with yourself, could signify the beginning of great upheaval in your life. And most of us don't want that. I'd venture to say all of us don't want that. I mean, there are a few individuals out there that I think they're quite at home with upheaval, but okay, I'll say the great majority of us don't want to be disrupted in such ways. It just makes me think, there's a period of time I was really into the runes, and I think I stopped pulling runes because of all the times I pulled the rune of disruption, Hagalas. Oh my God, that rune, it's like I can see it in my mind, the H with the crossbar that is at a skew. So frustrating. I'm like, if I'm just going to keep on pulling the rune of disruption, I think I'm just done with the runes, okay? It's the same news every time. Oh man. Yeah, it's funny because I also follow astrology, and a lot of my signs are in the cardinal signs. And if you don't know about astrology, that doesn't mean anything to you, but cardinal meaning initiatory, the signs that signal the beginning of a new season, that signal change, here we come. Get on that train, here I go. You're either with me or you're not. You do what you want, I'm going. Those are the cardinal signs. And also the mutable signs, which are the signs that are open to change, are open. They feel the winds of change coming, and they're open to it. So it's a mystery to me that most of my signs are in the cardinal and mutable signs. Like, I need that change. I do. I must. I need that inspiration to keep going. It's got to be variety. It's got to be movement. Okay, that's how I'm designed. And it's such a fascinating reality for me that that's the way I'm designed. And at the same time, I hold on for dear life to what it is I have. So I'm just saying, you can be someone who can only thrive when there is change. And yet, you may very well have a hard time facing change. And I think that's just completely normal. So, yes, coming back to caring enough to ask yourself the questions that nobody else will, and why it's so challenging to ask those questions. Okay, you see, if you're waiting for others to ask you these questions, you're going to be waiting a very long time. Every once in a while, somebody will ask you a question that will really, whoa, you all of a sudden are like pinned to the one spot. You're like, you catch your breath because they ask you that question. And that will happen every once in a while. And I say, highlight that moment, blow it up, reflect and meditate on it. You were just given a blessing. Because the majority of the time, other people will not be, you can pretty much count on the majority of the time, other people will not be asking you the questions you need to sit with, that you really need to hear. You must be the asker of these questions. And then you have to be really honest. Well, that might be very hard to be really honest, especially if you've been lying to yourself all your life, like many of us do. So, be prepared for that. That's why the following sentence: listen until you're ready to tell your truth. I specifically chose to tell your truth because the thing is, you might know the truth right off the bat. As soon as that question comes up, and it might kind of upset you because you're like, whoa, I have to leave this relationship. And you don't want to leave this relationship. I have to leave this job. Oh, and you don't want to leave this job. I have to give up this addiction. Oh, I don't want to give up this addiction. Whatever it could be, like, the answer. When the question's asked, something inside of you already knows. It's just been waiting for the question to be brought up. So you might know the answer right away, and then you'll cover it up and you'll be like, oh, well, actually, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. It might turn out this way, in which case it might be good for me, or, and you'll dance around this topic. It's like the question will be asked. You'll dance around the answer because you don't really want to deal with the upheaval that the answer causes. And you might do that for years, actually, until life keeps pushing you. But this last sentence, listen until you're ready to tell your truth. You may know the truth right away, but you have to keep on listening. You have to listen until you're ready. Maybe you know where you need to go, but you need the time to become the person who's capable of making that change. And it's funny that it's like, I feel natural, like this physical movement, like that's that movement of like this, like it's worlds colliding. So I find that interesting that you're ready to make that change. It's like, until you're ready to be the person who can confront it and be bust open. I mean, the truth can be a hard thing to live with, because it will not allow you to keep anything that's untrue. And that's incredibly uncomfortable. Have a lot of compassion for yourself, because that's incredibly uncomfortable, and it can be downright disturbing. So that's why you have to have the patience to listen to yourself. Make space for that, to build your strength, your resolve. Now, sometimes you've been building your resolve all along and you didn't even know it, and you hear the truth and you're ready. Other times it's not that way. That's why you have to be vigilant and listen, because our minds are wacky things. We hear the truth and then we can like misconstrue it in all these ways. And it's like, only your sincerity and devotion will really pull that out. That consistent sincerity and devotion to listen, which I've spoken about in a previous fortune. When you listen with sincerity and devotion on a daily basis, and you really want to know the truth, you better believe you're going to find clarity. Especially if you're asking for divine guidance. And I know it's scary, but it ultimately will lead to your greatest happiness and the greatest happiness of people who truly love you. And that might take years to work out, but it will. That's why it takes a faithful heart. Just like in the movie Hidden Dragon, Crouching Tiger. I loved how that moved. What did I just say? I love how that movie ended. That's what I meant, how that movie ended. A faithful heart makes dreams come true. I might have the wording not exactly perfect, but a faithful heart makes dreams come true. It really does take that. It takes faithfulness. It takes courage. It takes listening, being willing to listen until you are ready to tell your truth, until you're ready to live your truth, no matter what it costs you, no matter what associations you lose, no matter what material wealth you lose. Listen until you're ready to just say it and not care what has to be lost so that you can be found. It's like this one Palace song I've loved in the past. Do you want to go where things move really slow? Give me a little time to take what I know. Follow the ocean tide, follow the flow. Give me a little time to take what I know. Give me a little time to take what I know. Yeah, sometimes we know the truth and we do need a little time to gather our resources, gather our resolve, our strength, our clarity. I don't want to ever encourage anyone to be like, okay, like sometimes you need to be like that lightning bolt and like move, get out of there now. Sometimes that's what's required, but a lot of times you do need that gathering time. You do need to make these changes. You do need to strengthen yourself. So yes, I really appreciate this message. Care enough to ask yourself the questions nobody else will. You have to be the one. Every once in a while, the universe will speak through somebody and directly ask you. But for the overall process of living, you have to be the one who cares about you and the truth that you are responsible for. Nobody else. Nobody else is responsible for your truth. That's serious business. Because if you die and you don't find the courage and the faithfulness to live and speak your truth, that truth dies with you. And I do actually believe in many lives. But this is the only life you will ever be, this particular incarnation. This is sacred. I believe I have many lives, but this is the only one I get to be Yvette, that I get to live Yvette's truth. So Yvette is sacred to me. And I pray that you are sacred enough to you to ask those questions that nobody else will. And I hope you have the courage and the faithfulness to listen until you're ready to tell that truth, to live that truth, to be that truth that we all need. We all need desperately at this time, or else you would not have been born as you are today. You have a beautiful week. May your heart honey flow deep and wide. And thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy this. And until next week.